Kurt, it's Heidi. There's another hearing today in the House Oversight Committee over the separated children at the border. With our politics so divided and with the two parties and the two chambers so far apart on this issue, what do you think another hearing is going to do? How is it really going to change the dynamic right now, given where we are in our politics?
I'm not sure that it's going to change anything, but I do think it's important that Congress use the tools that they have to showcase what is actually happening in this country, what the consequences of them are, hearing from professionals in these type of hearings about what the actual real-world impact is of the policies that we're seeing put in place, how they affect human beings. You know, Congress can only do so much, as we know, that we've seen the limitations of Congress and of having that majority. But holding hearings and putting on that show every day is really the only thing they can do to stop an administration that continues to just govern and act by executive fiat. At the end of the day, the reason why we're in this situation in the first place, the lack of progress on immigration from a policy standpoint, it's 100% because of the Republican Party. Every time that there has been a potential consensus, collaborative position on immigration, it has been tank rolled by the right. Back in the 2000s, we had John McCain and Ed Kennedy working on all of this, having a bill. The right tank rolled it. In the 2010, 2014, we had the Gang of Eight bill that was supposed to go somewhere. Here comes the right, and they annihilated it. So I think the Secretary is right. There needs to be a coming together. But every time we have that moment, the Democrats are there. It's the right on the Republican side that ends up destroying it.
Mr. Secretary, Joe Biden is under attack from some progressive advocates for immigration, saying that he served under a president whom they called the deporter-in-chief because he executed removal orders. We have these outstanding ICE raids, which have been announced in advance, which is bizarre. But there are some 1 million existing removal orders, and this is the execution of those orders. How is this different from what the Obama administration pursued?
Well, first, even the most aggressive immigration enforcement person will tell you don't telegraph enforcement actions in advance. That is not an optimal situation from the enforcement perspective. Deportations occur all the time. Of those who have been ordered deported by an immigration judge, hopefully after they have exhausted their appeal rights, after they've had an opportunity to have their asylum case heard, we simply have to enforce the law, particularly if someone has been ordered deported. Now, these high-profile, focused enforcement actions, it's important for people to remember that they do have rights if they are arrested by someone from ICRO. If they're ordered deported in absentia, very often they have a right to a rehearing in person, and they cannot be deported until their process has run its course. In other words, they've exhausted all their appeal rights. And so it's important for migrants to know they have rights. But enforcement actions themselves are not extraordinary.
Kurt. Mr. Secretary,
Kurt Bardella.
Mr. Secretary, you mentioned the issue of rights and knowing your rights. And we're seeing right now in the run-up to this announcement that there's going to be these raids, this kind of grandstanding we're seeing from the administration, that there's this widespread concern that they're preying on people who don't know their rights, who don't know that if you don't have a warrant signed by a judge, you don't have to open that door when they come knocking. And I'm curious, being from the position that you're in as DHS Secretary, how do you balance law enforcement actions with knowing and protecting the rights of the people that you're pursuing?
Well, it's not easy. You're right. Very often the population of people that are focused on here are people who are least sophisticated when it comes to knowing their rights, understanding their rights in this country, which is why the immigration bar, immigration lawyers are so important in this debate. I've been pleased over the last 2-3 years to see the immigration bar in this country really step up and expand at the border, in the interior. And so immigration lawyers are in a position to do a lot of good here. And I want to go back to something that was said before. As recently as 5-6 years ago, there was a bipartisan understanding that if you wanted to have immigration reform, if you wanted to take care of the dreamers, if you wanted to have path to citizenship, we all understood that we also have to do more to secure our border. And that is the basis for bringing Republicans and Democrats together. And that dynamic simply does not exist anymore in Washington, which is why I'm pessimistic that anything can really get done.
All right, former Secretary of Homeland Security Jeh Johnson, thank you very much. And Kurt Bardella, thank you as well. And